Well, welcome to this special edition of Wealth Coherence. I'm Emily Bouchard, your host, and we are focusing on purposeful prenups. And today's guest is a dear friend and longtime colleague and my co-author of the book Estate Planning for the Blended Family, Paul Hood. Paul, can I ask you something that you brought to mind, which is oftentimes somebody who comes from wealth, they have an attorney that's been working with their family. Maybe it's even in-house in their family office, or there's an attorney that does all the documents, or their firm does. And when the prenup comes forward, there's a kind of a presumption sometimes that it's just going to come from that attorney because they know the family so well and they've already drawn up the documents and everything. And then the person who's unmoneyed, who's not coming to the relationship with a lot of financial resources, they need to have their own representation. And sometimes their betrothed will pay for that for them because there's legal fees involved. And obviously some of them can be quite steep. And then there's that question of like, well, does this lawyer really have my best interest at heart if the other people's family is paying for them? Like, how do you work with that, or how do you get around that concern?
Well, I will tell you that there are some lawyers that would not accept that payment from the spouse to be, from the moneyed spouse to be, because of the concern about independence. Now, you can waive, and the ethics rules allow you with notice to pay the legal bill of someone, or you can receive payment on a bill from someone who's not your client, your legal client for ethics purposes.
Yeah.
But it happens. How it normally happens is the lawyer fronts it, and it's a cost that ultimately gets charged back to the client. But at the time, it's the lawyer paying, because the client may tell them, we're not paying your bill. So they still have a risk of, there's a risk of collection, is my point.
Yeah.
And so that's how it's done most of. But that's waivable, But I would not accept that waiver if it meant that the other spouse to be was paying the bill. Even though I think you would win the ethics case on it, I think it would be a lot closer than if you weren't involved with it.
What if the spouse to be's family gifted the betrothed a certain amount of money?
Oh, and that happens.
That was
a lot
there.
of times in a prenup, kind of, they get an annual exclusion gift from him or her, from mom and dad. I've seen them all kinds of ways. And it's kind of the down. I call that the down payment.
Yeah, and then they can use that gift however they want to.
Right,
and
exactly.
They can pay for their own attorney, and they can choose which attorney they want to work with. And
the most important thing is if you're going to have them pick a lawyer, you have to give them a certain amount of time. And I would always recommend giving them 30 days.
Oh, easily. Okay. Yeah.
30 days. You could probably get away with 15.
And I think too, one thing that's I think is important also is sometimes there could be like, oh, here's another attorney, but they're in the same firm as the family's attorney. That's also a bit dicey, right? That would be a conflict of interest.
That's unethical. Whoever you're affiliated with as a lawyer, conflict of one conflicts them all out.
I think that's so important for people to be aware of, because you want.
Well, the lawyers, hopefully, if they're paying attention, that they wouldn't get themselves into that trick bag, because they do, conflicts checks.
Yeah.
Which I don't miss anymore.
I think that there is often a presumption of, here's our standard prenup. This is what our family uses. You just need to have them sign it. And it's like a miss in terms of the negotiation side of it. And so how do you recommend people do some negotiations in a pretty effective, purposeful way, as opposed to, you have to sign it, this is what it is, there's no discussion, right? Because I think that then it's not valid then, right? You need to be able to negotiate.
First of all, I want to find out, okay, when are y'all planning to get married? Okay. Because if they say next week,
Yeah, there's not going to be a valid
well,
prenup
that's
there.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Now there are other things we can do to protect if we've got a bad egg, on the other side. I mean, there are things, and we did a number of those things in some cases.
Yeah.
But by and large, you're going to have the agreement. Okay. And since you're going to have it, let's start with a conversation. I used to tell, and every client got the same word. Now, look, this is your prenup demand. He or she does not want it, which means that we're going to have this be a process. And I remember the second one I had in the same family that I was doing, they loved it. They knew exactly what to expect. But you have to lay it out for them. You
Yeah.
start with a sit down. There's nothing in writing. There are no drafts. And you're going to just have a conversation with them about it with their counsel. Okay? That's step one. I don't think if you start with emailing drafts, you've started on the wrong foot. Because it's clearly, while it may not be framed as take it or leave it, this is as good as it gets. And that's my problem with it. It's not the take it or leave it, because you can preface it well that, this is a discussion, blah, blah, blah. But this is the framework. And maybe there's a better framework that could come out of a conversation at the outset.
What kind of things would you cover in that first conversation at the table?
Well, to be honest with you, I used to start at the beginning. Do y'all know what a prenup is? And then I would tell them. And I would tell them what they would have in Louisiana without a prenup. We have community property. Anything created during the existence of your community is community property. Any income from that community property is itself community property. And then I go through the separate property. Income from separate property is community property unless you reserve it, which you can do unilaterally. Why they made it like that, I have no idea. But maybe they've changed it in the 20 years since I left.
And then
but
you also
I would start.
I would start
like
what
there.
that means too. Yeah, like what does a reserve
I would start
mean?
there.
Yeah.
I would start with what it is and what you would have if y'all didn't sign this. Now, in situations where you've got moneyed versus unmoneyed, I would always point out, hey, if he gets anything or she gets anything, it's their separate property because it's inheritance, which is separate property. So because some people don't even know that. Some people think because they're married, they get some of the other family's wealth. Now, you'd be surprised what people think. Because they start seeing money and they're like, how can I get myself into that bucket?
I know it's unfortunate that does happen. I think that the other thing that's really important is a prenup can be legally valid if it's done well, and especially when both people are totally in agreement with it. And you can have your inheritance be separate property, but if you choose to do things with that money where you commingle it with your spouse in some way, you have taken it out of the separate and made it part of the community property, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. And let me tell you something. Commingling is, if they're going to go to the trouble of commingling, okay?
And that's like,
if they're going to go to the trouble of signing the agreement, and then commingle,
where you put the money together, yep.
In the end, what have they done? They've really transmuted the separate property into, if they're in a community or even a quasi-community situation, that's where it would go.
Yeah.
And I would always tell them that on the front end and have them sign off on that. Yeah, because commingling happens. Sometimes it happens through undue influence. The spouse just takes over the money and switches all the accounts. Now, you'd be surprised what goes on out there.
Oh, so there's not just, oh, we signed the document and we're done. There's also key behaviors that need to be
Exactly. You got to
utilized
follow
keep
your
it
agreement.
intact.
You have to follow your agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
to kind of just wrap up the meeting that I would just
Please.
Like I said, this is what it is. This is what you have if you don't have one of these. And then I would ask them, what is your number one concern going into this?
Oh, starting with the concerns. Good. Okay.
And I would ask each of them that. Now, you're not always going to get the honest answer, particularly out of the unmoneyed person. But we all know what they're worried about. Are you going to leave me destitute? Okay, so now you're coming in destitute, but somehow you have an expectation of having less than destitute. Sometimes I don't quite understand that as a Stoic philosopher.
Well,
but
yeah, and just to be clear, there's people that might come in with a lot of debt. There might be some people that come in destitute. But there are also people that just come in and they have like a job. They have their retirement accounts. They have but they're not at the same level that the ultra wealthy can find themselves in. So
to me,
it runs that spectrum, right?
The value of the prenup to the couple far exceeds the price paid if it's done right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I maintain that if it's done right and with the right reasons, work a little Aristotelian, Nicomachean ethics mean into it. Right reasons, right time, right disclosures, right attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
You have increased the chances that couple is going to stay married longer than 5 years.
I agree.
And that is that's a good thing. It's a good thing for them. It's a good thing for society. And so I'm all about reducing divorce.
Yeah, and it's that healthy relationship to how you move with money in your relationship. And each person brings their past history around it. They each bring their current financial status
and mental and emotional trauma.
Yeah, and then there's also
that you inherit.
There's a lot of people that are considered moneyed, right? And they have to do the prenup, but they actually don't even necessarily have access to the money, or their hands may be tied in a lot of ways. Like
or the information about the money, as we just talked about.
Yeah, exactly.